Good evening, I'm Russ Brown, and tonight's ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Matt Rhule announced today that next weekend's Husker games will include a live scrimmage. The scrimmage will mostly feature third and fourth string players. The Husker games will take place Saturday, April 26th at 2 o'clock inside Memorial Stadium, and you can get your tickets at huskers.com/tickets. Nebraska basketball announced today that Pat Monahan has been named an assistant coach. Monahan spent last season at Wyoming as an assistant coach for Sundance Wicks. He has 19 years of experience at the collegiate level. Nebraska baseball will host Northwestern for a 3-game series this weekend. Will Walsh gets the ball in Game 1 on Friday night. He is 4-5 on the season with an ERA of 3.93. Friday's first pitch is slated for 6:02, and you can hear all the action right here on the Huskers Radio Network. Nebraska softball welcomes Indiana to town for a 2-game series that starts tomorrow. First pitch for that one will be at 5 o'clock, and you can hear it on Huskers.com and the Huskers app. And finally, Nebraska track and field will be in action this weekend at the Michael Johnson Invite in Texas. The action gets underway from Clyde Hart Track and Field Stadium at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Call a timeout if you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis. The 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Up next, Hour 1 of Sports Nightly right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
1-2 pitch. Popped up into center field. This is sending Riley Silva back towards the wall, and this one is... He made the catch! Oh, my goodness! Riley Silva leaps and makes a game-saving catch in deep right center field, a ball that looked like it was going out. And just like that, Nebraska wins.
2 on, none out. The 2-2. Bland swings and hammers this one. Deep left field. It is gone. A home run for Samantha Bland. A 3-run shot and a 6-0 lead for Nebraska. And that home run sets a new school record for the Cornhuskers. The 77th home run of the year.
Now, here are your hosts, Jessica Coody and Nick Hanley on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in to Sports Nightly on this Thursday evening. Full 2 hours coming your way tonight with Nick Hanley. I'm Jessica Coody, and we were just talking. I hope everybody's staying weather aware and all that good stuff. And again, another thing that makes me think of Greg, that he was always on top of the weather and making sure I knew and was well informed of what was headed the way. But I don't know. It looks like it might be hitting some folks in Nebraska. So hopefully everybody's staying safe.
It's never a good idea. Well, I guess it's never a good sign. Did you notice this, by the way, in the last 24 hours when you get the extreme meteorologists that are in town? And I know Reed Timmer is one of the most famous ones. He was in town. He's in Omaha. And then you got a lot of local meteorologists. It seemed like they're kind of banding together of just because the extreme meteorologists are in town doesn't mean something horrific is going to happen. And there's been a lot of, I think our local meteorologists are catching a lot of flack for maybe certain storms that have been predicted, but nothing comes out of it. And so I've noticed in the last couple of days that some of our local meteorologists have been a little defensive with that. So let's give our local folks a bit of a break. I think they're catching some heat. And I don't know why. I think they all do a pretty good job. It's a job that I think it's kind of like I think it's kind of like trying to figure out a lineup. It's not an exact science, okay?
Yeah.
You're hoping for the best, but you're hoping that what your models are telling you are going to work out. But at the end of the day, you never know what's really going to happen. So let's give our local meteorologists a little bit of a break. How about that?
I'm glad they're doing the job and not me. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
we got some folks already. We would always talk about this. It's getting close to that graduation time of the year, and folks always come out. We always see people taking a bunch of pictures out there. There's people out there right now, so hopefully they get that in before the rain hits here. But hey, some big news with Husker football availability. We've been talking about no spring game with the Husker games, a lot of other different competitions, but then Coach Rhule got up there today and said, I'm going to let them go. I'm going to let, maybe not the starters in the second team, but some of those other guys, give them a chance. Might be their last time to be inside Memorial Stadium in that uniform. Some guys maybe want to get some film, but we are going to have somewhat of a game-like feel, I guess, at least for a little bit with some of these Huskers on next Saturday.
I love this. I think this is, again, another great gesture by the head coach, and I love the fact that he's talked about a lot of the conversations, the real brutal conversations that they've had with guys that are either on that borderline of making the 105 or on the outside of it. And what was Matt Rhule's biggest reason not to have that traditional game is to have game film on their two deep, on guys that are first and second team guys, or at least projected to be so in the fall. But now he's using that same logic, but for guys that need tape so they can land somewhere. I think this is just a great gesture by a head coach that's saying, hey, if I've got to shrink down this roster, I still want to do right by these guys, and I want to do everything in my power. So it serves two purposes. For that reason right there, for the student athletes that aren't going to be here, but also to be able to, I think, give the fans a little bit of that competition, a little bit more of that usual spring game traditional feel where you can at least see some guys competing 11-on-11 actual football. Because I know that's been a little bit of a mix-up of, okay, what do I expect if I'm going down there on Saturday? So now you are going to get a little bit of a game out of it, and you're going to see some of those guys that are going to factor in the fall competing in some skills competition. I love this move. I think this is an absolute character and class move by Matt Rhule.
Absolutely. Huskers.com/tickets to be there and be inside the stadium to be a part of all of it. And that's what you heard him say. I mean, look, there's not going to be TV on this deal. So if you want to come in, you support the walk-on program. Some of these guys that have poured their blood, sweat, and tears into this program have been as much of a part, even though, unfortunately, because of the rule changes, that it's going to have to get down to 105. I love the fact that and this staff, I mean, I know for a fact he's not just getting up there at the press conference and blowing smoke. I mean, they're being honest with and having these kinds of conversations, and they have been really throughout this entire time, going back to even, back to January. They're having these honest conversations so that if guys want to get in the portal and take advantage and see what's out there, and then, hey, you could still actually play in this scrimmage and get some film out there. But in this day and age where you're hearing a lot of bad things with staffs making promises they can't keep and just the messiness of it, I think this staff is doing as much as they can to be as open and honest and keep being transparent, keeping that conversation open with guys, whether they are going to be in that 105 or not.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that is something that if you're assessing a lot of these different programs on how they're going to do it, I think a lot of the coaches would be well served in doing something similar to this, where you've spent years recruiting a lot of these guys that are not going to be a part of your roster going forward. So for people who think this is just going to be now turning in like the NFL, a cutthroat business where you don't develop those types of emotional connections with these players that, in the NFL that you sign and bring in, and you're trying to help them earn a living, but you're also making business decisions. This is what coaches are doing now, too, in college football. This is now a business. It's business decisions that you have to make. And so, but there's still that recruiting element of it. And maybe not so much in the transfer portal where you're able to invest so much emotion because you haven't been tracking that person since their freshman year. Although there are bounce backs that you recruited. Maybe they didn't choose you initially, and then they end up transferring to Nebraska or any other school. But that high school recruiting, that traditional recruiting that we see, you can tell how strong those bonds are when some of those guys get to their preferred destination. And so if you're a coach, you're now having to do what, and this is why I think Matt Rhule having that experience in the NFL helps, but you're now having to try to some way sever that emotion that you do get in the recruiting process. So what is the best way to continue to show that person that you're going to bat for them, that you're not going to leave them out in the cold by doing little things like this? First of all, being open and being honest when it comes to your evaluation, when it comes to where you fit with the team. Because if you're just stringing somebody along and they're going to be literally the 103rd, 104th, 105th player, and the playing time is going to reflect that, then they would be better served maybe finding another opportunity. So you're having those conversations with them, but also by sticking around, especially since you put in your time and effort through mat drills, through the winter workouts, and then through spring ball, that you're going to allow them to compete, and cameras can be on those guys, and you can provide that to other schools that may want to get an idea of how you've developed in the last 4 or 5 months. I think if you can't keep them, if they're going to be a casualty of the roster limit, this is the next best thing to try to remind those guys that they do mean a lot to this coaching staff, especially this head coach.
I've gotten some questions on just the timing of the 105. And again, the settlement isn't even signed yet. It's not into effect yet, but they expect most of it to move forward. And that's why I think you're seeing maybe extra, I guess, flux of the transfer portal, because this is the last transfer portal window that you can basically make promises without having to submit the NIL earnings that you get outside of the rev share to the clearinghouse. And so, there's a lot of schools that are making some promises about some big money, but then you better make sure that you pay them before that goes into effect. Right. And you have to start submitting that. But so basically the 105 though, and there's a lot of football coaches in college football that do not like this, are not for this, and have been vocal about their displeasure of this move. But from my understanding is that you can carry more, but you have to be down to that 105 number by that first week, that first game week. So you can have guys come through fall and have more than that, but that's going to be a even harder conversation if you go through all fall camp and then you're not one of those guys. And I guess the difference between the college roster limit and then the NFL is that, okay, if somebody gets hurt, you can't just replace that number because say, like Teddy Prohaska, by the way, let's just use him as an example. Last fall camp, then if he gets hurt in fall camp, and then what are you going to do? Take his spot away where he can't work out and use the facilities and utilize all the things. So it's different in that way where you can't just put him on the injury reserve and then fill that spot. And so now I don't know exactly what the rules are, and maybe you do, Nick, if you can transfer down, because that transfer portal window is what it is. I mean, it closes next Friday, and then there's the other window that opens up after, back in January and December. But if you can transfer down, I don't know if you can do that. Like if you went to like a Division III school or JUCO, if that's allowed at any point, or that's where I'm not sure if these guys that are now competing, and again, not just at Nebraska, but across the country, if they're going to go through all of this and then all of a sudden they don't make that final 105, can you go somewhere else at that point?
And to answer that question as best as I know, you can if you are going to a lower division. I believe that you do have the ability to do that outside of that window that exists right now. And you bring up a lot of interesting points on what coaches right now have to deal with. I've said many times when we saw the changes coming, when it came down to essentially having to re-recruit your current roster, I remember hearing Dan Mullen when he got out of college football, and he was removed, but he's been on ESPN, he's been on a lot of broadcasts, and I thought he had something when he was still a head coach. He had hinted that this is really difficult for a lot of these head coaches to put in the hours that they do when it comes to recruiting, trying to knock the doors down on the transfer portal. It's a profession where you don't have a lot of free time with your family, and a lot of these guys are family men. We know Matt Rhule definitely is one. And now you're asking these coaches to not only re-recruit their current roster, but now you're looking at guys that are on your current roster maybe from the previous year, and you're trying to do your best to set them up for their next place when they're not going to make your current roster. I think good coaches, I think coaches that really do care about those guys are going to do that, are going to do something similar to Matt Rhule. And I think there's a lot of them that exist in college football right now. But that's now, again, adding another responsibility onto their plate, adding more time to their day on top of what is now completely, it's always been highly competitive as a coach, and they get paid for that as well. I've said it many times. Don't feel overly sorry with the type of money that these coaches get. But that pressure that has always existed is now ratcheted up that much more, and yet you're adding so much more to these coaches' plate and their responsibilities and that time with their family. Look, I know there's probably a lot of folks right now rolling their eyes at me because they're like, well, we care about Saturdays, we care about victories, we just want to see the product get better, and I hear you. But you do get a sense of these guys, what they're going through, these coaches of what they're going through when they have to talk about this topic and that 105 topic and the guys that aren't going to make that cut. And you can hear it in Matt Rhule. There's a tone in his voice where he's very disappointed that he has to do that.
Right.
But he's going to do it, and he's going to do it the best way that he can. He's still going to try to serve those guys as best as he can because a lot of those guys came over because they had a strong relationship and a belief in what Matt Rhule's vision was, and now you got to cut them loose. So I think there are a lot of coaches that are feeling that, and it's another one of those things that these coaches are now going to have to adjust to, and it's going to change the way you recruit. It's going to change the way you evaluate and identify talent. But this year, and I think this year and next year, when you have to make those tough decisions on guys that you spent 1, 2, maybe even 3 years recruiting to bring over to your school, and now you got to tell them that they're just not going to fit into that 105, that's not an easy conversation, and I don't think that's something that any of these coaches take lightly.
I bet Coach Rhule, if you asked him, or well, if he had to basically list what would be the worst / hardest parts of the job, I guarantee you this now is going to be towards the top, if not the top, because one thing that we've learned about Coach Rhule and having conversations with guys that have played with him, played for him, have coached with him for a long time, is that he actually does develop those genuine relationships. And he cares. He absolutely, really, really cares about these guys as people. And so I guarantee you, like, this is going to be one that you could just see it when he's talking about it, how much he is just dreading having to make these kinds of decisions and have these kinds of conversations with some of these guys that he loves and would do anything to keep around if he could.
Yeah, and Jessica, the last thing I'll say on that here is we know how demanding Matt Rhule is to his coaches, to the staffers, to everybody that is either an actual full-time coach or in quality control or any of the staffers there. He's equally as demanding on his players because he wants everybody to be pushing in the right direction. That's for success in the field. But if you return that favor by accepting what is going to be demanded out of you, you get his utmost respect. And there's a lot of guys that have bought into that you got to say, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out. Some of the guys are going to understand that, and there's going to be others that don't, but you're absolutely right. This, I think, is probably going to be now the most difficult part of his job because I think as long as those guys are bought in and they're doing everything in the offseason and they're visible in the community and they're being good ambassadors and stewards of the program, Matt Rhule treats them like family. And so now you've got to cut ties with some of those families as far as actually being at the school. I'm sure he'll always keep in touch and he'll always be there if they need him. But that's not an easy thing. I know a lot of people think, well, you can just, it's not show friends, it's show business. Well, this is a new development in college football. That's the way it is in the NFL, but this is a new development in college football.
And this is what sets Coach Rhule apart. This is what makes him who he is those kinds of relationships that he builds and develops with his players. All right, we got to get to a break here. On the other side of this, we're going to play some of the clips, some of the highlights from Coach Rhule's press conference today, so keep it here on Sports Nightly. Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier.
Discover power, performance, and reliability at Woodhouse Chevy. Whether you're after a rugged truck, a stylish SUV, or a fuel-efficient sedan, the Chevy lineup features vehicle fit for any lifestyle. Take advantage of special financing and exclusive offers happening now. View our inventory online or visit our 2 convenient locations in Omaha and Missouri Valley. Woodhouse Chevy. Together, let's drive.
Set. Hike. When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium.
Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Getting ready to take on spring? Make your first move with the reliable performance and power of Steel battery tools. From hedge trimmers and mowers to string trimmers and more, save on select Steel battery tools. Right now, save $50 on the FSA 57 battery trimmer set. Real Steel. Find yours at steeldealers.com. With AK-10 battery and AL101 charger. Offer valid for a limited time only while supplies last. See participating dealer for details.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money because you're in charge. And right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. It's just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing plus 2.9% financing plus $2,000 cash on a 2024 F-150. Only at your Midwest Ford dealers. Driven by value.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new great trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Falls City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Make every drive exceptional with Woodhouse Hyundai. Lease the 2025 Hyundai Palisade SEL Premium all-wheel drive for just $469 per month. And when you shop Woodhouse Hyundai, you can rest easy with Hyundai Owner's Assurance, America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Visit us online at woodhousehyundai.com or woodhouseplacehyundai.com today. 36-month, 10,000-mile per year with approved credit. Tax, title, license extra. $1,099 down plus first payment and $299 doc fee due at signing. Stock pound HY250186. Offer expires 4/30/2025. See dealer for details.
The Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center is sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Welcome back to Sports Nightly. Nick Hanley, Jessica Coody here with you on this Thursday evening. Nick, before we hear from Coach Rhule, got a text on the text line. And my plan was to bring this up in the first segment, but we just got off on our own little tangent. You know, that's how it happens sometimes. But Dennis on the text line had brought up the fake injuries and the change in the rule that was announced today, which was needed. So under the new rule that was approved yesterday, if medical personnel enter the field to evaluate an injured player after the ball is spotted by the officiating crew for the next play, that player's team will be charged a timeout. If the team doesn't have any timeouts remaining, a 5-yard delay of game penalty will be assessed. So I think this was a rule that was needed. I know a lot of coaches got pretty heated about it at times last year, but utilizing that rule or lack of rule, I guess, for lack of better words, but the fact that you could go down, fake an injury, and stop the other team's momentum if they had something rolling. And so I'm glad they addressed this. I'm glad they, fixed this rule and implemented it.
It's a deterrent now. I think more than anything is that there is now something that does exist in the framework of how you are going to be able to successfully govern whether it's a fake injury or not. And I like the fact that the medical personnel has to be out there and there's going to be protocol to it. So at the very least, when there was no guardrails whatsoever when it came to, especially with offenses that want to move with pace, where when they are going a little bit more tempo, that you can do this. And we've seen, everyone's guilty of it. I don't want to say anyone's hands are clean of doing this. Nebraska's, I'm sure, has done it on a handful of occasions as well. It's just now something that exists. So it makes you think twice about it. And now coaches, when they are before a drive, whether it's a key drive at the end of the first half or at the end of the game, that there be some instructions that, hey, okay, we need you. And there's calls that come in from the sideline. And the players understand those calls, and those calls are for an identified or designated player to go down with an injury. I would assume 75% of those times, those occasions, were done by instruction from the sideline, and the other 25% were maybe the player on their own doing it because they felt like they needed to. The fact is, nothing ever existed, and so there was nothing ever to stop you from doing it. Yeah, you might get some heat on social media or some criticism post-game with coaches here or a player there, but there was nothing to govern it. So the fact that it now exists, I think this is the best thing to do. There needed to be some type of deterrent to make coaches and to make players think twice about actually going through with it.
Now, you could still, I guess, fake the injury. It just, you got to do it before the ball is spotted, right?
Right. All of a sudden, I got a cramp. Oh my gosh, I got a cramp. But yeah, and that, and that's it. But that is a good point to bring up, though, Jessica, because some crews sometimes can be a little bit more
slow?
Deliberate. Yes, can be a little bit more deliberate. You're down there in the sidelines, you see it. They're not all quick,
I'm like,
fast.
hurry, let's go.
Exactly. So there is that little window, and I think that is something to keep an eye on, especially when you do see end of half or end of game type scenarios where a team is going tempo and they're driving for either a go-ahead touchdown or trying to get in field goal range or whatever the situation might be, where there's a huge sense of urgency. Sure.
Okay, well, let's hear a couple of the takeaways from Coach Rhule's press conference today. And this one was what we were talking about in the first segment, but just he came on and addressed just the 105 roster limit and just his change of mind to want to maybe play some football on the Husker games day. So here is Coach Rhule on that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. The 105, it sounds like it's going to stay at 105 from what I'm seeing. And, we've already had most of them with everybody. I'm going to, we're going to do the Husker games next Saturday. I called Troy last night. I'm going to go live and do some red and white stuff. We have a bunch of guys that this could be their last time playing in that stadium. We have a bunch of guys that are fighting to make the 105. We have a bunch of guys who, I can't do it when you guys whisper on the side. It distracts me. I have a bunch of guys that if they can't play here, they need some tape to go somewhere else. So I'm going to wait. I've waited till after the portal closed on that Saturday. Portal closes on Friday, so it won't affect. The guys that are kind of cemented in their spots, they won't play. Some guys they might, ask to play or not. But those guys that are battling, some are twos even, but they want to prove that they're a one. We have a bunch of guys. So we're going to do the Husker games. We're going to bring out a bunch of Husker greats. We're going to have a bunch of competitions like the Pro Bowl. But I'm going to put the ball down a little bit and play some live football. And no Big Ten Network. No. It's just if you love the walk-on program, and you love Husker football, and you love those kids that have, in the face of being told they're not going to make the 105, still did the match drills this winter. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could. What Jacob Brandel has done. You know what I'm saying? And I just pick him because he's a walk-on player. I don't know if I could do what Jacob Bauer has done. That I could do the most demanding schedule that I've been around. Guys come from other schools like, Coach, this is demanding. Guys leave here sometimes because, Coach, this is too demanding. We've got guys who do this schedule after being told you're not going to be in the 105. So I'm going to put them out there. And I tell my wife and kids to come watch them play. Could be their last time. Maybe they'll end up being a starter here someday. I bet you there's someone that plays in this thing on next Saturday that'll be a starter someday. So we'll celebrate the former players. We'll celebrate the guys. You can see the Dillons and Jacories and all those guys out there, doing a bunch of stuff. But I just decided really yesterday, you know what? When they decided it was 105, I owe it to those kids to let them have a chance, one last chance, to go out there and put some stuff on tape. And then if they're not going to make it, we'll send that tape to all the schools that they'll have some more tape to send out. But I hope our fans, like I said, I hope our fans will come out and watch those kids.
And the other part that we didn't talk about as much in the first segment about this new addition or new development with the Husker games and actually having some red-white live scrimmaging is it's not just necessarily for guys that have been told they're not going to make the 105, and so we're just trying to put some tape on them. I thought what Matt Rhule brings up there, too, there's some guys that think they should be a 2. There's certain guys that think that they should be on the 2 deep, and this is their opportunity to have another scrimmage environment where they can put that out there on film for not only this current coaching staff to evaluate and see with their own eyes, but also if it doesn't work out and they feel like they're still not climbing that depth chart, they're not where they should be, then they have tape for the other teams that could be interested. But also, I think this is another situation for guys that are on the cusp of some of those borderline, they're maybe currently a 3, but they're trying to be a 2. Because I don't think this really impacts the guys that that are going to be your bona fide starters. But if you do have someone that is really trying to vie for that backup role, which could lead to being a starter eventually, that you get another opportunity to evaluate them in live competition. And as we know, too, Jessica, when you have fans there, that changes things a little bit. There are some guys that maybe they're kind of lying in the weeds a little bit in practices and even in the closed scrimmages, where their competition is fine, but you want to see some extra juice in them. You want to see something else for them to really, that light to really go on. You perform in front of a crowd sometimes, and certain athletes are driven by that. You get now to introduce that part of it into the evaluation too, which is not nothing, in my opinion. So I love that they're doing this, but I also think it's interesting that he brought up there's still guys that are going to make this team that are going to be out there that are going to be scrimmaging on next Saturday.
I think he's going to have a hard time keeping some of those guys away from running out there.
Yeah.
And that was one thing he had said today. Talked a lot about that. We didn't have the clip for you here tonight, but he and I can tell you, I've been out there. I've seen it. They like to practice and they want to compete. And he had said how much this is a team he's been waiting for and wanting to coach, because you don't have to ask them to run out there. And I think he's going to have a hard time keeping some of them from running out there with when they line them up.
Yeah, and you want that. That's what I hope that's the case, because that tells you that these guys not only cannot wait to perform in front of this crowd more than anything, but they want to compete when the stage is as big as it is. And in spring, I mean, let's face it, there's in the past however many years, that stage in spring, mind you, it's not a Saturday in the fall. I get that. But when you want that spring to culminate into something exciting like this, that's exactly what that spring game has always meant. So I would assume guys like Dylan Raiola and Ja'Cory Barney, Vincent Shavers, those guys would love to be out there, and they want to be able to put on a show in front of the crowd.
Okay, Coach Rhule was also asked about, there was a couple questions about recruiting and just throughout the spring, the takeaways and all of that. And one of the questions he was asked was about recruiting the state of Nebraska going forward with the roster limitations and, having to figure that into the equation now. So here was his answer to that.
I have one job, it's to win at Nebraska, okay? Anytime a coach here has tried to do anything else but win at Nebraska, they've been asked to leave. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, no man can serve two masters. We have to win. Everyone cares about everything else when you're not winning. When you win, Tommy Frazier was from where? Okay, I'm saying, like, that no one cares. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and I'd say that, like, I want to mine the state. I think there's good players in the state. Okay, but like, if a player's a really good player and doesn't quite fit us, and he's going to go somewhere else, I want him to go be happy. I care about football in the state. That's why we're open. Every practice is open to the high school coaches in the state. That's why our camps are not just select invitational camps. That's why we do youth camps. That's why we do free youth camps. That's why we go speak at clinics. That's why our coaches clinic had 500 people here just for us. We are going to pour into the state in football. But what I have found is, if you bring a player here from the state and they're not happy, the place that they love now becomes a miserable thing. So I have to be sure that they're good enough. And what's happening sometimes here is some of the other schools that aren't playing in the Big Ten, they're going to offer them as a sophomore. And everyone looks at me like, well, why haven't you offered them yet? It used to be you got offered as a senior, And I like guys, if I'm not quite sure yet, don't I owe it to you to be sure before I offer you a scholarship? And now before I offer you a rev share deal? So I don't think there's anything wrong at the University of Nebraska that we carry ourselves like the top 20 teams in the program, in the country. And the top 20 teams in the country, if they say, hey, we like you a lot, but we want you to come to camp, you'll come to camp, going into your senior year. So there's lots of kids. I would love to recruit them. They've committed to a Big 12 school or somewhere else like that. Come to camp. If you want to play in the Big 12 over the Big 10, I got it. But make no mistake, there's a big difference. And Big 12 is going to go nuts now. I know that. And I'm going to be on X and all that stuff. But it's the reality. The Big 10 and the SEC, especially moving forward, are going to be here in terms of everybody else. So I have to worry about what's Ohio State doing, what's Michigan doing. So I love the state. I love the players. And we're gonna take a bunch. So we've taken some as walk-ons. We've taken some as scholarship players. I just have to be sure that they're good enough. And I don't think asking guys to come to camp is the whole thing like, hey, you should be the first offer at Nebraska. Desperate teams always set the market. Let me say that one more time. And rev share and all this, desperate teams set the market. So if they know that, hey, straight up, we can't beat a Big Ten team or we can't beat Nebraska, then we better offer them a year earlier and say Nebraska doesn't care about you. We care about you. We just we got to make sure that you're going to help us beat Ohio State. That's my job, is to be really focused on, serving that one master, which is college football playoff, Big Ten championships, national championships. That's all anybody wants. So I better do that. If you're not doing that, then people say why. But and I think we're taking the right players from the state, and I think football in the state's really good. So you're going to see lots of guys sign scholarships.
I don't know what the Big 12 equivalent of Paul Feinbaum is, but yeah, they're probably going to hear from whoever that is. But no, that's brutal honesty right there. That's brutal honesty, and I think that sends a message. But what he did bring up too, Jessica, that I don't think has gotten enough run is these early offers. I mean, there's been a time in college football not that long ago that 8th graders are being offered, that freshmen are being offered. So you have to be careful with that, because if you do offer a freshman or a sophomore and all of a sudden they're not developing and other people are passing them by, well, are you going to stay true to that offer if they give you the verbal commitment? So I think what Matt Rhule brings up right there, that is the new reality of college football, of you're probably not going to really dig into that full committed offer until a junior at the earliest, in my opinion, because how do you know if you go earlier than that if that player is going to develop those remaining years?
Absolutely. I feel like he's allowed to say that because he coached in the Big 12, and I can back him up. I was there for 9 years. I could tell you it's different. It is different. There's a different level to it. So they can get mad all they want. It's the truth, and it's facts. It's facts. They're from Coach Rhule. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. We got to step aside for a break. More to come after this.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A
a commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing plus 2.9% financing plus $2,000 cash on a 2024 F-150. Only at your Midwest Ford dealers. Driven by value.
No need to hunt around for friendly service, low prices, quality products, and great experiences. You'll find it all with the local experts, Sapp Brothers Petroleum. If you're tired of tracking down another late delivery, it's time to consider Sapp Brothers, where we pride ourselves on delivering products on time or even ahead of schedule, with your safety our top priority. Switching is easy. Just shoot us an email or give us a call. And right now, when you contact Sapp Brothers for any of your fuel, propane, or lubricant needs, you'll be entered to win a guided pheasant hunt next fall. Visit sappbros.net/Huskers.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them.
With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise.
No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures.
It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Noddle Companies proudly supports the Huskers Radio Network. As a full-service leader in commercial real estate, we create thriving communities. Discover what's new in the Builders District in North Downtown, Noddle Hospitality's latest venture in Exarban Village, and the contemporary living of row house townhomes on Leavenworth. We're welcoming world-class concepts from men's fashion and great eats to gorgeous homes and green spaces, all professionally managed by Noddle Services. These are the Noddle Companies, building a better Nebraska. For more information, check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your crawl space and damaging your home. Musty smells, sagging floors, mold are just a few signs your crawl space is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns: a free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
Life doesn't come with guarantees, but working with Rob Seco comes pretty close. Our strategic investments in the seed we offer are designed to directly improve your bottom line. From full trait platforms, breeding and development, to field-by-field planning and seed-driven crop inputs, with Rob Seco, you have precisely what you need to improve plant performance and increase yield. Every farm, every crop, and every acre. Learn more at robseco.com.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rhule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99. Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. Welcome back to Sports Nightly with Nick Hanley. I'm Jessica Coody. We were listening in to some of the highlights from Coach Rhule's presser today. Got one more we wanted to play for you here tonight. And he was asked about, the turnover margin. That's been a big emphasis. And there was improvements last year, but I think it's even more of an emphasis, I guess, safe to say, this spring, enforcing the turnovers and getting those takeaways. Here was his answer when he was asked about that.
Yeah, I think we're breaking on the ball and intercepting balls better. It's always hard. The number one source of turnovers is always the quarterback position at every level of sport. So when you can't, I see some deal. I don't know who's back there. Is that Keona's back there? Justin's back. Is this Justin and Keona? So Keona, those guys get mad at you because you don't let them get near the quarterback, right? Because they would like to get the sack fumbles and all those things. I think the biggest thing is, you can do all the takeaway drills you want. Truly turnovers, fumbles, which is what, they come from, in my opinion, dominant contact and running through people and striking people. And we've had some of those. Some guys like Jeremiah Charles have gotten the ball out. I think we just need more. At the same time, I also think we're carrying the ball better. I tell our guys all the time, you don't live in the past, but you learn from the past. You go back to last year, you lost to Illinois by 1 point. And I say 1 point because it was overtime, right? You lost to Iowa by 1 play. Your 2 plays. No, we don't believe in getting close. We believe in the urgency of the details of carry the football right and knock the football out, right? Knock the football out. Knock the football out. So we have got to continue. But I won't know that, Sam, honestly. You don't know that till the season. You really, because, if you're knocking a bunch of balls out, great on defense, but on offense we must be terrible. So I like the way we're practicing. I like how physical the guys are, but I like how attention to detail we've been. We're just going to continue. We're still young in some areas to grow that. But the turnover battle, it's been since 2016 that Nebraska has been plus in the turnover battle for a season. So we were horrific. We were bad this past year. You know what I'm saying? Like better, but bad still. We've got to become either good or great. And that doesn't come with anything else other than, I think, really just getting better. When you're better, you win the turnover battle.
And I think what Matt Rhule is hitting on right there is, okay, the defensive part of this is a big factor in being able to take the ball away, and he's right. And we heard John Butler even saying that they were running video of guys like Charles Tillman, Peanut Tillman, with the peanut punch and trying to be able to dislodge the football. But I think Matt Rhule is absolutely right when it comes to the type of dominant contact that you're hoping they continue to emphasize on that side of the football. Those will come. For me, more than anything, Jessica, and I don't know how you feel about this, I was encouraged to know that the takeaways weren't as evident because the offense is actually taking care of the football. And if you go back a year ago, my goodness, that question was asked every time Matt Rhule had any type of media availability, is how is the offense handling and protecting the football? So I was actually encouraged to hear that the offense is doing their part and making it tough on the defense to take the football away.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I've been to some spring practices. There have been times that the defense has taken it away quite a bit in the spring. So I'm with you there. I'm glad that they're protecting the football for sure. All right, we got to get to a break. We're back to wrap up hour one next.
This season, give your soybeans the upgraded protection they deserve. With CVA Elite Fungicide Insecticide Seed Treatment plus Saltro, you'll get stronger above and below ground vigor and enhanced SDS protection, helping you maximize ROI. Talk to your Central Valley Ag Field Sales Agronomist or visit CVACoop.com today. Our planet is hungry. Together, we feed it. Central Valley Ag, the official co-op of Husker Nation.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Triple B Feed has the products to help your cows thrive. Whether it's weekly delivery of consumption-controlled Lumix liquid mineral with protein or Sweet Pro block supplements for space feeding, while also stretching your forages up to 25% better, Triple B has you covered. Let Brian and Brad Blauhorn take some of the stress out of your beef production this year. For more information and other products, visit triplebfeed.com. Triple B Feed, helping you and your cattle.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
No need to hunt around for friendly service, low prices, quality products, and great experiences. You'll find it all with the local experts, Sapp Brothers Petroleum. If you're tired of tracking down another late delivery, it's time to consider Sapp Brothers, where we pride ourselves on delivering products on time or even ahead of schedule. With your safety our top priority. Switching is easy. Just shoot us an email or get us a call. And right now, when you contact Sapp Brothers for any of your fuel, propane, or lubricant needs, you'll be entered to win a guided pheasant hunt next fall. Visit sappbros.net/Huskers.
This season, give your soybeans the upgraded protection they deserve. With CVA Elite Fungicide Insecticide Seed Treatment plus Saltro, you'll get stronger above and below ground vigor and enhanced SDS protection, helping you maximize ROI. Talk to your Central Valley Ag Field Sales Agronomist or visit CVACoop.com today. Our planet is hungry. Together, we feed it. Central Valley Ag, the official co-op of Husker Nation.
The Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center is sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Final segment here of hour number one. This hour flew by. I feel like we just started the show, but we had a lot to talk about.
Well, it's, you're in good company, right?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Hey, are you doing some Easter egg hunting? I know at baseball they're going to have an Easter egg hunt, I believe, on Saturday, right? And maybe moving the schedule there, so stay tuned on that. But you guys going to be doing some Easter egg hunting this weekend?
Yep. We've got the family coming over after the game on Sunday, so there'll be an evening one, and then I believe there'll be a Sunday morning one as well. So as long as the Easter Bunny does travel to one side of town to the other, Reese should be very, very happy. But yes, there's already plans in the works, and right now I believe he's upstairs doing the Easter egg dyeing right now, too, which
nice.
I always loved as a kid. That was one of my favorite things to do when I was little.
I still like Easter egg hunting, but it's, I guess, a different form of Easter egg hunting. We were joking about this the other day. I went to a high school golf tournament when I was back in Oklahoma, and any time that we had some stoppage and play, I was in the rough looking for, and I made a haul. I sent you some photos. I got a haul. So I feel like my training Easter egg hunting back in the day has paid dividends in me finding golf balls.
Did you get a final count on that, by the way?
I got 7.
Oh, 7. Okay. I thought maybe you were just, the whole time. Like, you're coming away with like a big plastic bag full of them.
It's not like I did it the entire time. I thought about it, but I thought about, making, but I had to watch, and be present for some of it. But when I had an opportunity, I made out, I just, and you were giving me a hard time about the kinds that I got. I'm like, hey, listen, I don't discriminate against golf balls, and I'm probably going to just turn around and lose the next time I play.
Throw those top flight noodles out. Just look for look for the Titleist. If you stumbled upon any Pro V1s, I'd be happy to make an offer on those.
I've had a couple of decent ones, but like I said, I don't care. I'm like, until I get to the point where I'm not worried that it goes straight in fairway every single time, I don't really care what golf ball I hit off the tee.
I shouldn't be selective either. Trust me, I shouldn't be selective either.
I made out with the haul, so hopefully everybody else enjoys their actual Easter egg hunting.
Yeah.
All right, hour number 2 just ahead. We're going to talk some more Husker football here from Justin Evans, who's moved over to that center spot here this spring. We've heard a lot about him. Also going to hear from Ceyair Wright. Talk a little baseball, some softball. I had a couple questions on the text line about softball, so we will get to all of that coming up in hour number 2. Keep it here on Sports Nightly.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
No need to hunt around for friendly service, low prices, quality products, and great experiences. You'll find it all with the local experts, Sapp Brothers Petroleum. If you're tired of tracking down another late delivery, it's time to consider Sapp Brothers, where we pride ourselves on delivering products on time or even ahead of schedule, with your safety our top priority. Switching is easy. Just shoot us an email or give us a call. And right now, when you contact Sapp Brothers for any of your fuel, propane, or lubricant needs, you'll be entered to win a guided pheasant hunt next fall. Visit sappbros.net/Huskers.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your foundation and damaging your home. Cracks in walls and uneven floors are just a few signs your foundation is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns: a free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
Good evening, I'm Russ Brown, and tonight's Ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Matt Rhule announced today that the next weekend's Husker games will include a live scrimmage. The scrimmage will mostly feature third and fourth string players. The Husker games will take place Saturday, April 26th at 2 o'clock inside Memorial Stadium. You can get your tickets at huskers.com/tickets. Nebraska basketball announced today that Pat Monahan has been named assistant coach. Monahan spent last season at Wyoming as an assistant for Sundance Wicks. He has 19 years of experience at the collegiate level. Nebraska baseball will host Northwestern for a 3-game series this weekend. Will Walsh gets the ball in Game 1 on Friday night. He is 4-5 with an ERA of 3.93 on the season. First pitch on Friday slated for 6:02, and you can hear all the action right here on the Huskers Radio Network. Nebraska softball welcomes Indiana to town for a 2-game series that starts tomorrow. First pitch for that will be at 5 o'clock, and you can hear it on Huskers.com and the Huskers app. Nebraska track and field in action this weekend as well at the Michael Johnson Invite in Texas. Action gets underway from Clyde Hart Track and Field Stadium at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Call a timeout. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, the 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Up next, hour number 2 of Sports Nightly right here on the Husker Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
1-2 pitch. Popped up into center field. This is sending Riley Silva back towards the wall, and this one is... He made the catch! Oh, my goodness! Riley Silva leaps and makes a game-saving catch in deep right center field, a ball that looked like it was going out. And just like that, Nebraska wins.
2 on, none out, the 2-2 play, and swings and hammers this one. Deep left field. It is gone. A home run for Samantha Bland. A 3-run shot and a 6-0 lead for Nebraska. And that home run sets a new school record for the Cornhuskers. The 77th home run of the year.
Now, here are your hosts, Jessica Coody and Nick Hanley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Sports Nightly. I know there's severe weather across the state. I think it's going to miss us here, but Nick, you've got sirens going off.
We do. I guess that's the good thing about doing the show from the basement. I'm already here, but yeah, we do have some sirens. So it sounds like Fremont was getting some pretty big hail. I know North Bend area was having some power outages, and then I thought I heard somewhere maybe kind of north of Lincoln that there was even some softball size hail. So it's getting real out there. Why not here in April?
Well, if you, I guess if we lose you because of power outages, you'll just stop responding or something. And I don't know. I'm glad you're still here, even though the sirens are going off.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we got a text on the text line from Crypto earlier asking about Jordy Ball and could she win Player of the Year this year? And I have been asked this a couple times. People have asked me what her potential is to win that award. We talked to Nate Rohr last night, and he said no doubt she's the best two-way player in America. But I think, and he even said this, you could cut her in half, and both the pitching, if she was just a pitcher, she'd be an All-American, and if she was just like the hitter and playing defense, she'd be an All-American. So you put it together, it's pretty impressive. But I think the team's going to have to help her out in this, because a lot of times the Player of the Year award is also, hangs on what the team does. And so I do think the team will need to make some noise in the postseason for her to have a shot at that award. Don't you think? I would agree, yeah. And we see that with the Heisman Trophy, that in most occasions that it's at least a team that is showing. Now, I get it. Travis Hunter might be an exception to that, and even Ashton Genty, who was up for it. Hey, he was a two-way player. Yeah, and that's true. A two-way player, he was very rare. But so are we saying that Travis Hunter is the male equivalent of one Jordy Ball? Okay. So are we going to retire her number, too? I'm just saying, it just happened in the Heisman that it should happen no matter what. But, hey, you could argue, obviously Nebraska softball is doing better than Colorado football at this point. Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. And so you and I were talking about this, too. I'm curious at what level
Nebraska would have to find themselves in. If they were able to make it through a regional and get to super regionals, I think that would be enough success on top of what is a great team success that's really on top of the individual themselves, because the more of the spotlight you're getting, the more success your team is having, especially in the postseason, that I would think that could go a long way as well. So sometimes the best player in every sport just so happens to not be able to do enough on their own, and maybe they play for a 500 or sub-500 team, and they don't even make it to the postseason. But then when you watch them individually, you're thinking to yourself, how is this person not the best player? The good news is Nebraska's well above 500 and looks like a real going to be a real problem for other teams as we get closer to the end of the year.
Yeah, I was talking with that to Matt Smith, who's one of the sport administrators for softball and has been on the sports information crew for a while. And it's just we have talked about this quite a bit just with the ball bat sports, with baseball and softball. They seed the top 16, and then outside of that, they actually really, it doesn't matter. And so a lot of it's about location and whatnot. But Nate said it last night, and we've been saying this. It doesn't. If Nebraska doesn't get in that top 16, which it's not impossible, but probably not likely. There's a lot of teams in that top 16 that do not want to see Nebraska as their 2 seed in their regional.
It's actually, Jessica, shaping up a lot like 2021 Nebraska baseball when they had to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And you and I were talking about this off the air a few days back when it comes to the selection process, that if some way, somehow, the selection process can provide a story, not necessarily indicative of how you finish, of where we thought Nebraska in 2021 was one of the higher 2 seeds, should have been one of the top 2 seeds, that got actually slated to the overall number 1 seed, Arkansas. So essentially the way the seeding we all think would work is, well, boy, Nebraska wasn't a very high 2 seed. They were a low 2 seed, because why else would they be in the overall number 1 regional? But the team and the coach that was probably the most upset by that was Dave Van Horn, former Nebraska coach and the coach of Arkansas, because all of a sudden you're getting a 2 seed. That's a major problem. And they pushed that to the very final game of that regional, where Nebraska had to beat Arkansas twice to try to come out of that regional. They won the first game, and the second one, they had the lead going into the 6th inning of that game, too, before they ended up losing to Arkansas. So that one almost blew up in Arkansas's face, too. But Nebraska, very similar to how this softball team is playing this year, where it just really started clicking. They had one real bad weekend at home against Rutgers, and then after that, that Nebraska team went on an absolute tear. You see this Ron Revell's team taking shape. That offense has been relentless, as we talked about, and we talked with her on that on Monday, but also what they're able to do in the circle with Jordy Ball, and as you and I discussed on Monday too, defensively behind their pitching staff, they're handling the softball extremely well. They're making plays, so everything really is lining up for this to be a very dangerous team.
I'll have to at least say this. I don't know, since its inception when the award started, but for at least the last, it looks like 10 years, there hasn't been a player that's won the most outstanding player that their team didn't make the Women's College World Series. So you don't have to do that, I don't think, but I think it's kind of become part of it that your team makes it to Oklahoma City. And I do know they give it away there one of the first days that you get to Oklahoma City, the player of the year. Now, again, a lot of times you don't have a caliber of player that Jordy is, where you're playing, right, doing so well in both aspects of the game, and so that might factor in. But most of the time it goes to a player on a team that makes it to Oklahoma City. So again, I think she absolutely is capable of winning it. She's doing enough right now statistically that she is going to be in the conversation. But ultimately, I think they like to give it to players on teams that also have postseason success. But I can tell you this: Jordy Ball would much rather go compete for a national title as a team than win Player of the Year. The individual accolades do not matter to Jordy Ball. And we've heard Rhonda said that to us the other night. It's not what she cares the most about. She wants this team to do well. So we can talk about it because it's fun for us to talk about, but I guarantee you Jordy Ball does not care if she wins Player of the Year, if she wants her team to make it as far as possible.
Yeah, it's a great question by Crypto. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we need to, like you brought up, and we just made the comparison to Travis Hunter, two-way player that's dominant on both sides of the football, or in this case, dominant in the batter's box and in the circle. They're going to get a lot of recognition, and rightfully so. Question is it going to be the ultimate recognition? And you're right. For Jordy, that would be fine for her, but she wants the team's success, no question.
Okay, well, let's hear from Switchback and talk some more football, because I had a chance to chat with Ceyair Wright. Always a great interview, of course, the former actor, but it's crazy to think about. He did not go through spring football a year ago because he was a late arrival late in the summer last year. So this is his first spring with Husker football, and here's my conversation with Ceyair. All right, here with Ceyair Wright. Well, your first spring here in Lincoln. Hard to imagine that you got here in the summer last year, but how has it been different now that you've had a spring football here with Nebraska?
It's just been, another opportunity to expand myself as a player, grow as a player, get closer with the team, build the team up. So I'm very happy to, be able to get this chance to do spring ball this time because, like you said, I got here in the summer last year. So it's been a good experience so far. All
right, you had quite a season last year. When the season chapter closed, well, how did you reflect? What were some of the things you took away from your first year in a Husker uniform?
I would say I feel like last season was a great stepping stone for me. I was more productive than I had been at my previous school, and it was a blessing for me to be able to come out here, a great opportunity, and I think that I took advantage of it. And so, like I said, it was a stepping stone. So this year is just an opportunity for me to step up and build upon last year.
What were some of the things you're like, okay, I want to improve on this, I need to get better here going into this spring?
Some of the things that I would say I wanted to improve on were setting edges in certain plays. There's being in the Big Ten, you're put in a position where you have to be in the run game more often than when I was in the Pac-12. And so I think that was a point that I was kind of lacking on in this most recent season, so I wanted to be intentional about improving upon that.
Now that you have experience and you've played college football, you guys got a lot of young guys in the room. How has that been kind of taking over and being a voice, an older voice in the room?
Yeah, I would say it's really just kind of applying some of the lessons that I learned in the past from older people that I was around, and like you said, having more experience being on this team. I think that I know that I'm in my last year, and so I'm really trying to elevate myself as a player in every aspect that I can, and not being selfish in that, and making sure that I'm bringing the room along with me as well. All the younger guys. So.
You work with Coach Butler as your position coach. Now as a defensive coordinator, what's he bringing to this defense? What excites you about him leading the charge?
Yeah, I think that I was very impressed last year with Coach Butler as a secondary coach. I think that his, pass game defense, just him being the secondary coach was really really cool, and it's really cool for me to be able to learn more football. And so, him being in the DC role now, I think that, he brings an NFL mindset to the team. And I think that he has some great defenses, some complex defenses that'll be very formidable.
How has the process been, too? Because you have so many new guys up front, and then obviously at middle linebacker, just working in everybody when you guys, the defensive backs have played a lot of football together, but when you're working in a lot of different guys, how does that progress throughout spring football?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things, just one, getting reps. I think that's the most important part, just getting reps and kind of getting the feel and chemistry on the field, but also taking the time to speak with each other outside of, off of the field, in the film room, watching things together, because, you have to be on the same page. And so when you get to watch film together, it's like I can see the way that somebody else sees it, and I can also tell them the way that I see it so that we can get on the same page. So being able to, knock down those walls of not having chemistry, we've been able to do that this spring so far.
Well, what is Coach Williams like? What does he bring in to the defensive backs room?
I really like Coach Williams. I think he's got a down-to-earth personality. I think that he's able to connect with us well, and I think that he's got great football knowledge. He's got good techniques that he teaches. I think that's one of my more favorite things about him, that he kind of teaches us, different techniques, and I think that's one of the more important parts of the position. Having the ability to play different types of ways, and so he has multiple things in his toolbox that he's been, teaching the players.
One of the big storylines we've heard throughout all spring is the competition between the defensive backs and the wide receivers. What's that like? How are you guys battling it out here and making each other better here in the spring?
Yeah, I mean, the mentality that Coach Rhule, really preaches is iron sharpens iron. And I think that the battle between the defensive backs and the receivers has been a testament to that. We've got talented people in the DB room and talented people in the receivers room. And so we've been, going at it every day and just competing. And I think that every day we get better. So it's what you want.
All right, who's your number one guy that you battle with? We asked Malcolm. He said Ja'Cory and him go at it. So is there a guy that you really like to match up with?
Yeah, honestly, I like all of them. I think they all are great players and all challenge me in different ways.
You, being that you played your first year here, what was your perspective of Husker Nation and just, the support that you were able to get? You became a fan favorite by the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely felt the love when I first got here. I think it's very unique, the love that the fans have for the team, and I think that gives it the familial feel. And I felt a part of it immediately at the welcoming aspect that everybody had. And so, yeah, I think I'm excited for this next season just to continue to grow and build upon that.
All right, so when spring ball closes, what are the things that this defense that you hope that you guys have accomplished over this last 6 weeks or so?
I would say, for me personally, what I want to make sure that we are, I think, and we're taking steps to that every day, and I think that we're just about there. Just everybody being on one page, you know what I'm saying? So that once we come into fall camp, it's just about ironing and smoothing things out so that we're ready once the season gets here. And I think we brought a lot of people back from last season, so it's easier for people to just kind of jump in and kind of just get into the flow of things. So just staying on one page and making sure we're all seeing things the same way.
You pretty excited, though, about the potential of this defense for what you've seen throughout spring?
Yeah, I'm extremely excited. I think that we're going to have I know that we're going to have a great defense, and I think that we can, take the team very far.
Awesome. Great stuff as always. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Again, Ceyair Wright after practice. Nick, it's kind of been interesting throughout spring when these position coaches and the coordinators have come up and they've been asked specifically about players, and Coach Rhule even said it today, let's not single anybody out, but that's just the Ceyair Wright was asked about, and I think Coach Butler said, he's battling. And that, I cannot wait to see how they figure out the rotation at defensive back, because Coach Rhule actually said that after the last scrimmage that they've got, 6 safeties, 5 corners that could all start, and it sounds like they're going to move them around, but I'm intrigued to see what Coach Butler does to get a number of these defensive backs on the field and in different times throughout a game and in certain situations.
And I like what Ceyair Wright, when you asked about what he wanted to improve on and talking about setting the edge. So you're talking about a guy that turned out to be a pretty good guy in coverage, had a nose for the football, and now is talking about helping out and stopping the run element as well. I think that's taken him to more of a well-rounded cornerback. And isn't it amazing when you think of this secondary? It's that perfect blend, right, where you have guys that have started several games on top of some young, hungry, redshirt freshmen, sophomores, extremely uber-talented young men, especially in that position group between the safeties and the corners, that are looking to make an impact as well. So you've got competition going on like crazy, and you've got more veteran guys that don't want to give up their spot to a younger player. You got young guys that are coming at them. So that whole iron sharpening iron, I know that's a cliche and it's thrown out a lot, but as Ceyair Wright said and talked about how Matt Rhule and Coach Butler bring that up, I think it's very fitting for that particular group. If there's one position that you could say iron really sharpening iron, I think it would be that secondary. And for Ceyair Wright, it's kind of crazy to think. I think a lot of people forgot that what you mentioned. He wasn't in spring last year. He got here in the summer, and the reason he got here and the reason that they really went after him is because of the injury to what happened with Bly Hill. And so Ceyair Wright was able to step in and really once he got his footing, he was a difference maker out there. So he's one of those guys. I know you can talk about Buford, you can talk about Singleton, but I think people forget how valuable Wright was, especially down the stretch. Even in a game against USC that they lost, getting that pick 6 against his old teammate, that's where you could really see this guy. He's everywhere. And I think now that he's, as he talked about, having a little bit more of an idea, getting his feel with this team, knowing what to expect, but also that continuity with his position coach now being the DC, I expect big things out of Ceyair Wright. Absolutely. Hey, switching gears a little bit of breaking news over the last few minutes. The
We were talking about the Heisman earlier. Basically, the Heisman of men's college gymnastics, so the Nissan Emery Award, is given. It's the highest honor in college gymnastics, and it is coming back to Lincoln. Taylor Christopoulos wins the award, very deserving, and it goes back to that conversation we were having last night, Nick, about just the how incredible, across the board. There's some really, really good athletes here, and that conversation, he's in that conversation, right, for being male athlete of the year. He's the best, or has been voted basically the best gymnast in college gymnastics, and he's competing for he's on the national team, the Team USA, and but that's a big time honor. So congratulations to him. He's the 4th Husker to win the honor, but that is awesome that it's coming back to Lincoln, a big time award there.
Great. Again, we talked about the student athletes, and for him individually, that is awesome, but also to have those decisions to make. We were talking about what you, and then when Greg was with us, when you and Greg both had to make those decisions or part of that decision process, I think it just underscores what Troy Dannon's talked about, what Matt Rhule's talked about, what a lot of the coaches have talked about, where it's a little easier for them compared to maybe some other schools because people want to be here and be a student athlete at Nebraska because they have those resources to succeed, and there's another great example of that.
And you talk about the iron sharpens iron. I mean, I have those conversations with coaches and players and really with the head coaches that come in here. And that success breeds success. Like you want to do your part, right? And they're competitive in that regard too, where they want a top to bottom. Hey, we can compete in every sport. We want to be in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is when football's always going to get the attention. But there's other sports that they want to put out their highlights, and they want people to talk about them as well. And so not even within, we always talk about iron sharpening iron at certain positions or within certain programs themselves. But when it comes to an athletic department, that's kind of a fun thing when you have every program trying to compete for their spotlight a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. That's healthy.
All right, got to get to a break here. Hour number 2 of Sports Nightly coming up next. We're going to hear from the center, Justin Evans. So talk a little bit more Husker football. Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. More from Sports Nightly coming up after this.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new great trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Fall City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the 9th inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Getting ready to take on spring? Make your first move with the reliable performance and power of Steel battery tools. From hedge trimmers and mowers to string trimmers and more, save on select Steel battery tools. Right now, save $50 on the FSA 57 battery trimmer set. Real Steel. Find yours at steeldealers.com. With AK-10 battery and AL101 charger. Offer valid for a limited time only while supplies last. See participating dealer for details.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Husker fans, it's game day, and Pizza Hut's got your perfect play. Score the game day special for just $29.99.
Get 2 medium 3-topping pizzas, 8 boneless wings, and 5 breadsticks. Enough to feed 8 hungry fans. Pizza, wings, breadsticks, and more. It's the ultimate lineup to fuel your game day. Check out the full menu online at pizzahut.com or in store. Because remember, no one out-pizzas the Hut.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Triple B Feed has the products to help your cows thrive. Whether it's weekly delivery of consumption-controlled Lumix liquid mineral with protein or Sweet Pro block supplements for space feeding, while also stretching your forages up to 25% better, Triple B has you covered. Let Brian and Brad Blauhorn take some of the stress out of your beef production this year. For more information and other products, visit triplebfeed.com. Triple B Feed, helping you and your cattle.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Welcome back to Sports Nightly. Nick Hanley, Jessica Coody here with you on this Thursday evening. Wanted to hit on a couple more things from the press conference today. One of those that Coach Rhule talked about, and it happened yesterday, that Jack McAllister went into the portal, the punter, and then Coach Rhule talked about that and how Coach Eckler wants to move more towards that rugby style kick. And he said, you know, just the way that Jack McAllister handled it, he spent a long time really praising him and how he handled it, and it wasn't easy, but that he just could not speak highly enough about McAllister and just the way that it, you know, it's not when he was recruited, Coach Eckler wasn't here, and then they went through spring, and it just was not, it's just not his skill set. And so, you know, again, another example of handling things on both ends, I think, even though Coach Rhule said, I hate how it went down, but it just is how it happened. But, you know, hopefully Jack McAllister finds a good spot for him. But that was another really interesting nugget from the press conference today.
It was, and when we heard that Jack McAllister was entering the transfer portal, but had talked about how it was essentially a mutual decision, that both parties came to the agreement, that you knew that there was no ill will, and then you find out later, you know, what the reason behind that is. I feel for Jack McAllister because he left Washington because they were doing the exact same thing. They were going to go to a rugby-style punter, and so he comes to Nebraska, works out with all the high expectations that he's going to be able to replace Brian Buschini, and Mike Eckler, hey, this is his show. And the special teams need to be his. Make no mistake about that. You don't owe anybody any favors. The personnel that was in place is what it is. Mike Eckler has a way that he wants to do things, and I think that that's respected, and it sounded like Jack McAllister respected that as well. I mean, he handled that, like you said, as good as you possibly could. But I also, again, go back to the transparency of this coaching staff and Matt Rhule and that communication, being able to communicate that to where a guy that just decided to leave one program to another and now is going to have to look for another one in such a short time is still walking away with no hard feelings, is not disgruntled. I think that also talks about and speaks volumes of the communication that's taking place with that coaching staff to these student athletes. Yeah, I'm with you. I hope he finds something, because that's a tough deal when you're leaving one program because they're going rugby style. You're thinking, okay, Nebraska, Brian Buschini, I'm going to replace him. I got all this experience, especially in the Big Ten, and then, well, we're actually going to go to rugby style kicker or rugby style punter, and now you're scrambling a little bit. But again, that's why this portal window opens. That's why I think the spring one is so very important for the rare situations like McAllister's going through. Also, though, and I don't know, this is. I also thought this immediately when how great is that Coach Eckler comes in, and says, hey, I think this is going to be best for us. And then Coach Rhule supports him and also is like, hey, I think you're right. He's allowing these coordinators to make those kinds of calls that it hasn't been what they've done. But Coach Eckler believes that's what's the best for the special teams. And Coach Rhule's like, I'm on board with it. So I think that also nod to the head man that, hey, he's letting them do what you hired them to do, basically. Yeah, and I think that's important for this time around with special teams. You can't have yes men. You've got to have someone, and I'm assuming this is what was identified first and foremost with Mike Eckler, is this guy has a clear vision of what's worked for him. He's got the personality, and we've talked about that energy, that fire that he has, but more than anything, he's got a vision, he's got a plan, and as the head coach, you know how tremendously bad special teams was a year ago, that you've got to be able to shake things up. And so if a fresh look and a different approach on how you want to punt the ball, how you want the football to leave your foot needs to change by the guy that you hired, that you fully trust into taking on this major responsibility, a phase that needs to improve, then yeah, absolutely, you have to go about it that way. But I think it is important to bring that up because I think in years past, and this goes even before Matt Rhule was here, I think there were a lot of special teams coaches that were essentially going off of the orders of the head coach, and the head coach had a plan on what he wanted to see. He just wanted that special teams coordinator or coach to be able to execute his vision. And so I'm not saying Ed Foley was completely just taking the marching orders from Matt Rhule, but I think it was – I mean, this is a pretty dramatic change. We haven't seen a rugby-style punter at Nebraska, but it's something that, again, you have to support because you need this phase to be better. And if Mike Eckler feels that's going to be a better part and going to help this phase be better, then yeah.
Spring ball, has been a great experience, just getting better each and every day, building that tight unit, knit team that we need. It's been gone for a couple of years, but I feel like this spring is special from the past springs I've been here because the chemistry is there, the camaraderie is there, the fellowship is there, and we're just coming together on both sides of the ball, offense, defense, just improving and just coming together as a team.
You're a guy we've heard a lot about playing center for a long time. Coach Rhule really believes in you in that position. How has it been for you transitioning, taking over that really full time now?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, It's, like I said before, it's just a day-by-day thing. I can't focus on fixing everything I want, coming from guard, where it's different, where you go off the center. But now at center, you're the quarterback of the offense. You have to set the tempo. You have to make the points. You have to set the pace for the offense. So it's just a day-by-day thing. And then I feel like each day of practice, I've just been getting better at one thing, and that's what I'm focusing on this spring.
That's great. What do you like about playing that center role?
Center role is just center kind of forces you to become into a leadership role. As before I probably never said a word, but now it's allowing me to come out of my shell to be a true leader of the team, and that's helped me, force me to get into that role.
How about working with Dylan? Obviously, you guys have had a close relationship, but now that you're in that center quarterback role, how has that continued to progress?
Yeah, it's progressing great. I love Dylan, and he would do anything for us, and I would do anything for him.
The young guys that you have that you're playing alongside, how have those guys continued to come along?
Improvement. We have great leaders in the room like me, myself, Henry, Rocco, just building those young guys up and just showing them the right way to do things, showing them what the standard is and just building them up.
A lot of the coaches have come in here and bragged on the offensive line and what you guys have been able to do this spring. What has worked so well for you guys that you've been able to progress so well throughout spring football?
I think our relationship, we talk a lot more, we hang out a lot more, and I would say most importantly, just building our relationship off the field will show up on the field. When we play, when the season comes, I feel like we'll be the tightest we've ever been.
Was talking to a couple of the defensive linemen the other day. They were bragging on you guys, too. How's that battle been, matching up against the black shirts on the other side?
I mean, this O-line versus D-line is going to be a battle for life. That's never going to go away. At the end of the day, they're our teammates, so we just work together.
And then just with Coach Holgerson and everything that he's implementing here, how has that progressed? How do you feel like where you're at now at this point in spring football?
Yeah, I feel like we're headed towards the right direction. Coach Holgerson is leading us the right way, showing us how things are supposed to be done as a Nebraska offense. So we're trying to bring that back.
How about the running backs? So I'll give you a chance to brag on those guys too.
Yeah, our backs are awesome. Guys like Emmett, Mekhi Nelson coming up. We're just building those guys up. Quentin Ives, just showing them the right way to do things, and we just work together with them because at the end of the day, the O-line needs our running backs, and the running backs needs our O-line. So it's been great.
Awesome. Great stuff. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Nick, it's amazing. You hear those offensive linemen talk, and it's like you're hearing Coach Rhule talk, which is important. What the things that he says and he preaches and wants to instill in this room, they believe in it, and then they speak it too. But I can tell you from, just you heard that conversation there. I interviewed Justin. He's been a part of this team and played for several years now, but he has grown. And I think it's great to see him really embracing that role and that, because he was maybe a little bit on the shyer side, not as vocal, but he wants to be that because this team needs him to be that, and he's embracing that. And I think that's it's cool to see that kind of growth when you have a player that maybe starts one way and then now are stepping into a different kind of role that they're embracing that wasn't always maybe in their comfort zone. I think that's cool to see.
And we all remember when Matt Rhule and the coaching staff got here, even when Marcus Satterfield was the OC, that whether it was Donovan Raiola talking about the offensive line, Marcus Satterfield, or Matt Rhule, that Justin Evans was always a guy that was brought up in very high regard, even when he wasn't starting at the time, that this was a guy that was on the come. And so him and just his ability on the interior, you knew was going to lead to some big things. And then once Ben Scott moves on, that you have that very important spot to fill on the offensive line. We didn't talk a lot about Ben Scott this last year, and that was a good thing because usually when you talk about the center, you're talking about maybe some snapping issues or some mistakes that are being made, but Ben Scott was as steady as there was at that position, and that was pretty important, especially when you're coming off of replacing a guy like Cam Jurgens, that once he got that snapping situation figured out, he was as good as we've seen in a very long time, and he's shown that at the next level in the NFL with the Eagles. So I think that for Justin Evans to find himself from a vocal leadership standpoint is great, but I also think that he was always being molded to be that heir apparent and that be that guy at center. You kind of heard Donovan Raiola even hint to that a year ago too, that would likely be the guy that would back up Ben Scott, and that would be the guy that would move forward. Now, that doesn't say that there wasn't competition for that spot. It just sounds like Justin Evans has really flourished in the short time that it's now been his spot, where I think, the guys like Sam Sledge and some of the other young interior offensive linemen that were going to vie for that center position, nothing against what they've done. I just think Justin Evans has been able to utilize the experience he had on the interior and now really put himself in a position to lock down that spot.
Absolutely. All right, got to get to a break. Just got a couple segments left here on Sports Nightly. And hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee, where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
Set, hike,
When champions take the field, they come ready to play. TNL Irrigation understands the value of momentum. Like a Husker drive, there's no stopping. If you live for farming and football like we do, TNL Irrigation has you covered. Check your fields from the game with a remote system, or just enjoy the play knowing our systems are reliable as a sold-out Memorial Stadium. Touchdown! Nebraska born, Nebraska strong. Husker Nation and TNL Irrigation are like no other.
Woodhouse Nissan makes shopping for your next vehicle simple. Lease the 2025 Nissan Rogue SV all-wheel drive for just $325 per month. Visit us in Bellevue or Omaha today, or online at woodhousenissan.com or woodhouseplacenissan.com. 39 months, 10,000 miles per year with approved credit. Tax, title, license extra. Must lease through NMAC. First payment and $2,500 down plus $299 doc fee due at signing. Based on sale price of $33,165. VIN number SC7-96741. Offer expires 4/30/25. See dealer for details.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Not All Companies proudly supports the Huskers Radio Network. As a full-service leader in commercial real estate, we create thriving communities. Discover what's new in the Builders District in North Downtown, Not All Hospitality's latest venture in Exarban Village, and the contemporary living of row house townhomes on Leavenworth. We're welcoming world-class concepts from men's fashion and great eats to gorgeous homes and green spaces, all professionally managed by Not All Services. These are the Not All Companies, building a better Nebraska. For more information, check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
Dear Truckin' Awesome. Want more horsepower in the stable? The Tundra iForce Max is the most powerful Tundra ever. With its electrifying twin-turbo V6, you got everything you need. Saddle up the Tacoma TRD Pro. Its segment-first performance seats are designed to smooth out the shocks when the ride gets bumpy. The Toyota 4Runner is part mean streak, part wild side, and an all-around icon. Check out that signature power rear window, will ya? Yes, sir, Toyota trucks. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
See your Omaha Metro and Lincoln Toyota dealers. Corwin Toyota of Bellevue, Village Point Toyota of Omaha, Baxter Toyota of La Vista, or Baxter Toyota of Lincoln.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
The Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center is sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Just got a couple short segments left here on Sports Nightly. Nick, we haven't talked about this, but Lee Corso, the news of Lee Corso today coming out that he's going to be retiring and making one final headgear pick week one. You kind of felt like it might be coming, but still, it's just all we've known for the last however many years is Lee Corso on College Game Day. It's going to be a little odd.
It is, and I hate using the word shtick because I always feel like that has a negative connotation and it's not genuine. But the Lee Corso shtick was that was game day. That's what brought game day, I think, its fame and its popularity. And having the guest pickers going head to head with Lee Corso, the headgear, that was such a big part of it. And it was for a guy who used to coach college football that didn't take himself that serious on the set. Provided some insight, but more than anything was just having fun with the position he was in. And I got to admit, the last couple of years, it was tough to watch because you could just tell he was not – he's not all there. I mean, he's
89.
Absolutely. I mean, if I could still be even as sharp as he was at that age, I would be very, very happy. But I'm glad it's happening for the simple fact that it needed to come to an end because it was tough to watch the last couple of years where – Kirk Herbstreit, a dear friend to him, had really had to help him along in a lot of different ways. So happy to see that he's going to get honored the way that he should, but it's definitely going to be a big void on Saturday mornings. There's no question.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get to our final break. We're back to wrap up Sports Nightly next.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing plus 2.9% financing plus $2,000 cash on a 2024 F-150. Only at your Midwest Ford dealers. Driven by value.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new gray trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Fall City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
Life doesn't come with guarantees, but working with Rob Seco comes pretty close. Our strategic investments in the seed we offer are designed to directly improve your bottom line. From full trait platforms, breeding and development, to field-by-field planning and seed-driven crop inputs, with Rob Seco, you have precisely what you need to improve plant performance and increase yield. Every farm, every crop, and every acre. Learn more at robseco.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
In the heartland, where ambition thrives, there are those who are made and those who are made for more. Just like the Huskers on game day, Kloss, a leading producer of ag equipment, unleashes the power of ambition in the field. Discover why our cutting-edge machinery and unwavering support aren't just a promise, they're a commitment to your success. Because at Kloss, we know you are made for more. Visit your Kloss dealer or CLAAS.com. Which automaker employs the most hourly workers in the country? Ford. Which automaker assembles the most vehicles in the country? Ford. That's not a coincidence. It's a commitment. A commitment Ford dealers share by offering employee pricing across a full lineup of Ford vehicles.
Now get employee pricing plus 2.9% financing plus $2,000 cash on a 2024 F-150. Only at your Midwest Ford dealers. Driven by value.
Woodhouse has been been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Nick Hanley, Jessica Coody here with you. Final segment of Sports Nightly and of tonight, but also for the week because we'll be off the air for Husker baseball. Had a 3-game series with Northwestern, another home series, well, back at home this weekend, and a lot of fun things surrounding the 3-game series, including Bark in the Park on Saturday. So I'm planning on taking Sunny out there. They've got some cool giveaways, some bandanas for your dogs. So get on out to the ballpark there and watch Husker baseball. There's talk that they might change the schedule, Nick.
I know it's being discussed just because the weather on Sunday does not look great. That at least it has been discussed for a potential doubleheader on Saturday. I would think that we would know more about that tomorrow if they decide to go that route. So that would give us an Easter Sunday all to ourselves at least.
Well, okay, so tell us about Northwestern. We were just chatting, and I guess, obviously nothing's a give me, but the more challenging, I guess, portion of the schedule might be behind them in terms of the Big Ten. So this is a series that hopefully the Huskers can take this weekend.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity where I feel like even with the loss in the series to Iowa for Nebraska, that you get a good midweek win. Now back-to-back weeks of some solid midweek wins, Kansas, and then being able to even it up with Creighton on Tuesday. That Nebraska feels like that maybe they're starting to turn a corner, and they've made it through that really brutal stretch of Big Ten games. So this is where they have to get the work done, and I do think that for Northwestern, it's kind of the opposite for them, where they started off pretty solid, winning a couple of conference series, and then they've dropped back-to-back, and they just had a really brutal showing against Northern Illinois this last week. They lost 27-11.
Wow.
27-11 in that game. So, and it's a team that kind of like Nebraska as far as where they are statistically in certain categories in the Big Ten, where they're sitting there in the bottom half. They do have a guy that I am actually interested in seeing. Who's going to be a problem in the middle of their lineup, and Trent Lelis. And this is a guy that is slugging at .761. He's a 15 home run guy, hitting over 300. So they have a couple guys that can swing it a little bit. And this Northwestern team, when they were winning games early on, that's what they were doing. But all of a sudden, their offense has been sputtering. They can't get a lot of people out right now, too. So that is going to be an issue where Nebraska just has to get into Friday like they have, where they get solid outings from Will Walsh, have that complementary offense that we've seen here recently, and then you find a way to win a series, because that is the objective right now. I know people will say, well, can you sweep this team or that team? You don't even worry about that. You come away with series victories from here on out, and I think Nebraska is going to like where they are. But this Northwestern team, they're playing some good baseball early on. It's just been here in the last couple of weeks where they've really started to go the other way with it.
Just got about 90 seconds left, but, I think that's maybe what's been a little bit frustrating with this team is you've seen flashes, but they just have not consistently put it all together, and hopefully they find a way to get, because you were really bragging on the pitching from the Creighton game, and then we've seen some flashes of the offense, so hopefully they can put it all together and keep it together.
And I mentioned it last week, too, Tucker Timmerman being back with the team, and even in his one appearance against Iowa showed some really good stuff. Unfortunately, he had the stomach bug that affected this team this last weekend, so he didn't play against Creighton, so expect to see him this weekend. That is a big stabilizing force in the bullpen as well, so it's great to have him back.
Okay, so currently, unless the schedule changed, so just stay tuned on the social media platforms, and the guys will keep you posted to tomorrow night during the broadcast, too, if there is a change in the schedule. But 6 o'clock tomorrow night for the first game, 2 o'clock Saturday, and then noon on Sunday. And then Ben and Nick will be on the air with you for the pregame show starting at 5:30 on Friday. And I'm excited. Bark in the Park. It's always a fun day. I think it's going to be pretty crazy out there. But get on out there early if you want to get those bandanas. Tomorrow night, I'm going to softball with my parents. They're coming into town, and so we're going to check out softball tomorrow night, baseball on Saturday.
Awesome. All right. Well, make sure you bring the pup by, too, if you're around on Saturday.
Hopefully she'll behave in the press box. I'll have to bring her by. All right. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Russ back there running the show. For Nick Hanley, I'm Jessica Coody. Have a great weekend, Husker Nation.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Hey Huskers, it's a new day in Nebraska. Manzer Equipment, Mertz Farm Equipment, and West Point Implement of Columbus have teamed up as True Ag and Turf. Coach Rhule is bringing innovation and high-performance standards to Husker football, and True Ag is doing the same to your farm with game-changing Fendt equipment. As Big Red establishes power on the field, True Ag and Turf does the same in the field by welcoming Fendt to Nebraska.
Nebraska Lottery.
Hey, I heard Trucks and Bucks is back.
Yes, sir. And this year you could win one of 8 new gray trucks. People from around the state just love this game.
They do?
You bet. Just this morning, I got calls from excited players in Burwell, Sutton, Falls City, and Ralston.
Well, you can add Wilbur to the list.
You're from Wilbur?
No, that's my name.
Oh.
Hey, if you get a call from Alma, that's my aunt.
That's her name?
No, that's where she lives.
Trucks and Bucks top prize odds are 1 in 336,000.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
This season, give your soybeans the upgraded protection they deserve. With CVA Elite Fungicide Insecticide Seed Treatment plus Saltro, you'll get stronger above and below ground vigor and enhanced SDS protection, helping you maximize ROI. Talk to your Central Valley Ag Field Sales Agronomist or visit cvacoop.com today. Our planet is hungry. Together,